Okay, here is the subject property, your 3908 Moss Rose Drive, and here's your square footage. This becomes the multiplier as we come up with a square footage price that we look at to come up with a price per square foot, as you can imagine. So first we're going to go to the past sales. I pulled a little deep for these. Appraisers really have the problem with you pulling this far back, but we do need waterfront property. So what it will really come down to is the bank that the buyer brings the loan from. Are they going to be comfortable with going this far back and making adjustments? Or are they going to be more comfortable going further out? Now, because we're talking about riverfront property, they can't go to like West Nashville. They can only stay on like that side of town. They have to be within 4 miles. So it could be that they're not going to be able to get it appraised out no matter what, because these three comps as an average won't be good enough. So we're going to be looking at marketing, and when we market, we're going to be looking for cash people, or people who are at least have a high loan to value ratio. In other words, they're ready to put down 20 to 50%, somewhere in there, and they're using the loan as sort of just an investment tool. So if we look at these real quick, I had some that priced higher per square foot, but it was because the house was so small. So these are the only ones that are actually in the right range. And honestly, that's stretching it. 1,904 square feet. They usually don't like to go more than 200 square feet. They can go 400 square feet. So what we're really looking at is, instead of looking at it from the appraiser's perspective, we're going to get the best loan to value buyer that we can. In other words, the buyer with the most skin in the game, who, if the appraisal doesn't come out, has extra money to put down on the sale of the home. So we're more looking at it from the value perspective. What are people currently willing to pay? So if we hover over these numbers right here, you'll see the price per square foot people are getting is 172. 164 and 139. Now this is the one that has the square footage most like yours. You can also see that it sold for the most. So that's called the rule of inversion. Basically, a smaller house will sell for more per square foot. If we go back through and look at these, this one for 172 a square foot, what we want to do is see, is this property comparable? I actually know this agent over here. She's a good lady. So you see, it looks pretty sharp. The kitchen's very updated. Stainless appliances. It looks like it was a complete redo. I'm not sure if anybody lived in this afterwards. Outside of it is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't knock my socks off either. The inside is definitely the advantage here. And then you can see, you can see they've made good use of the outside space here. But I do think this is really close to being on par with your house. It's just not as big. I think people will pay more for that. But like you said, you pay more, but the price per square foot goes down. So look at the next one. I'm just going to go back to the list here so we can look at the price per square foot before we look at the photos. This one's 164 square foot. Again, smaller, so it should be worth more. Tight lot here. It doesn't have the the full 1 acre lot. It's got about a half acre, so I can see where people would be willing to pay more. This house is really just a dollhouse. It's vintage, but completely redone as well. Kitchen, wine cooler, flat panel cabinets. Those are called shaker cabinets, but they're really not expensive. The glass is expensive, but not the panel that you see inside here. It's not very nice. Then the back has the double deck, which is nice, coming off the master. And then this nice grade up to the water. It claims it's still not in the floodplain, or at least it didn't flood. So sharp little house. Go to our last one. This one, all these happen to be on your street. I mean, I was really pulling off of anything in Inglewood or East Nashville. It just so happened that they were all on your street. So this one is really the exact square footage. Not exactly, but way close enough to be a comp. I mean, this is as good as it gets, especially when you're looking at waterfront property. And we'll click on that one. This one's the one for $139 a square foot. Outside looks amazing. Click through this real quick. It's a great lot, but as you look through, you'll see, carpets instead of hardwoods, a little outdated. Has an extra room with cheap paneling and laid-in ceiling, and then again just carpet. Like I said, it has a great lot. We didn't get a good view of the river view here, but it does look like it has a good grade going down to it, but it hasn't been capitalized on too much. The deck is really nice, but the fence looks a little rough and everything. So I would like to think this is at least, and here's the kitchen again, needs lots of updates there. At least a good comp, square footage wise and finish wise. Like we talked about in our appointment, this could be taken to the next level, but would there be any money in taking this to the next level? Probably not. The money is going to be in adding square footage, not in just refinishing it, especially with kitchens and floors, all very, very expensive things to redo. So that kind of gets you there. This is one that I pulled off the tax record because it did not record as a sale on the MLS. Just one thing, when you're looking at these different analyses that you're looking at with your realtors that you're interviewing is how well do they know the market? How deep did they dig? I went all the way back to 2008 on the tax record, but 2008 was just a very, very high point in the market. So it would be ridiculous to take one that far back, but this one's close enough. You might recognize the address. This would have been Dean Pusey's house at some point. So you know the house pretty well, I'm sure. For what it is, if you like log cabins, obviously it's wonderful. It's in excellent shape. It is a tougher sale, and frankly, as much as I would just love to have been part of this transaction, man, that's a tough one right there. But they got $469 for that. It is a lot bigger, so per square foot, that is not too far off. Let me see where we are there. But you can tell that that house is pretty sharp. We talked about its historic value, and that still could be in question, but it is a pretty amazing house. So if you divide that square footage up, that one was sold for $160 a square foot. That's pretty good square footage, but not unlike the ones we just looked at. So it doesn't really change our analysis a whole lot, but it is nice to know that that's there. So if I were going to market it based on square footage and basic lot size, in other words, lot price doesn't really come into play until you talk about teardowns. So it doesn't add a ton of value one way or the other. People are willing to pay for it, but it just won't come out in an appraisal. And if that lot's not buildable, meaning you tear it down or you have enough space to subdivide, appraisers usually won't give you credit for it. But it does speak well to the buyer who wants to expand and things like that. So looking through all this, if I'm just talking about, reality, what we can reasonably expect to get, scroll down here. Oh man, I'm a terrible speller. Comparables, let me correct that. And comparables are between $139 and $172 a foot. The most similar house in this size and finish is at $139 a square foot, which brings your price out to $375. I know that's probably disappointing you guys. I'm just giving you I'm shooting straight because I like to be upfront with people. I'm not done with the analysis, so hang in there. And then secondly, we talk about Fantasyland. That I'm big on pushing the market. That is why I run into a lot of appraisal problems, because I think with the marketing that we bring and the demand, I can sell houses that other people can't sell at prices other people can't sell for. However, that being said, we've run into 4 appraisal problems this year. Sometimes I win and sometimes I don't win in terms of arguing with the appraiser and supporting my side of things. I can already tell you right now, if I run into an appraisal problem, it's going to be hard to support. Sometimes I can pull that off and I can, basically cherry pick some numbers. But in this case, there's just not another number out there. There's some West Nashville stuff, but it's not going to count. we're gonna have to be within 4 miles, and I can do the appraiser's work as good as he can. The only difference between us and them is they're only looking at hard data. So right now there's currently no riverfront property in Inglewood or East Nashville that is in any way comparable. We do have some in Donaldson right now, and I look at the active comparables to say, okay, somebody wants to live on the river. Where can they live? What is available? I do know that there was a house over here on this side of the river that failed to sell for $399. They just couldn't get it. It was a great house, but it also had the floodplain issue that scares some people off. And as much as I love Donaldson, it's not the same as the Brush Hill part of Inglewood. There's much more demand there. So the demand could raise the price buyers are willing to pay, but we would be looking at appraisal issues. So I always say a contract is like an engagement. It hasn't got you to the wedding yet. The biggest problem there would be just knowing from the get-go that these people are going to invest some money to inspect this house and appraise this house, and we are going to have to just keep our fingers crossed as we go through this and hope we have good access to an appraiser who is reasonable. So going forward, I'm going to say that, like, if I were normally to take this listing, I would want to market the house at about $399, knowing that we may have to move down to $375 around there to actually get it sold, but I would want to list at $399. Now, because you guys have a lot of time and you've indicated that you're in no strong ability to, you don't have to sell right now, I'd want to list higher. So here's my suggested list price would be $449. And then what I would do is I'd want to rent and stage the house for $1,000 a month. Now, $1,000 is really cheap rent for a house like that. But the reason why I want to do that is, A, just to cover the utilities and any expenses you guys have. But B, is to make the house look as good as possible. What we would do is we would reach out without trying to call in a company that does this. We would reach out and try to find an owner-occupant that had really nice furniture and understood that the house would be marketed constantly and they would have to keep it in tip-top shape and ready for showings at all times. This is not impossible. I've done it a lot, and that will help me move the house. If the house sits vacant, it kind of gives off an air of that you're desperate to sell and invites a lot of lowball offers, even though I do try to qualify everybody who comes into the house and let them know that, we're not desperate. It just doesn't give the vibe that we want to give. So that would be my suggestion. And my only fear would be that you guys would get impatient at the $449 price, and we need to listen to the market. What I hate about overpricing sometimes is that I can only do so much marketing to get people to pay, a lot more, and I don't want to lose the listing in 6 months and then have you guys, relist it at a more sellable price. So I'd really like for you guys to be convinced and trusting that we're doing the absolute most and best we can do, so that as time goes on and we need to drop the price or we need to make changes to the property, which again, I'm not suggesting with this house unless it's something that comes up in a home inspection that needs to be addressed, that you guys will hang in there and let us start by shooting for the highest price possible. And then again, I have mentioned before, I am willing to list higher than that. I just think that we need to listen to the market, watch the offers that come in, and if offers are coming in really low, we need to take that into consideration. So I hope that helps you understand my analysis, and I'm going to tag a couple other things onto this email here. And but thank you for letting me come by your house the other day. It's a lovely house. I wish I could buy it myself, and give me an opportunity to compete for your business. So thanks, guys.